from a little cover. I got my dreams in sight, wrestling on the mat. I go and put up a fight with every hold and slam. I rise to the peak. Now as Professor Bear, it's my strength that they see. Roaring with knowledge like a lion so proud. In this wrestling world, I'm standing out loud. I'm Professor Bear, got the passion to spare. Wrestling's my life with the power to share. From the roof to ropes, in the spotlight we gleam, chasing victory dreams, living out the theme. Now my WOSN, my squad.
Yeah. Hey, new beginnings on the cusp. Not too old to adjust. Old dog, new tricks. Remember, I was just a pup. Something dirty in my cup. Clean soul.
With my boys crew, we'll always ride. In the wrestling world, one just claim the prize.
Welcome, and thank you for joining me this evening. I am Professor Bear, and this is A Bear's Thoughts. Guys, girls, man, I have just had an amazing time to get to talk to so many great promotions and owners and bookers. It's one of those things for me, especially at my big old age of 52, that I never thought I would have opportunities that I've been having. And it's such a great feeling to know that I played just a little part in helping wrestling fans get familiar with so many different promotions and let you know that the big companies like WWE and AEW are not the only things out in this great wide wrestling world. And I am lucky to talk to you all and to bring this company forth. I've been doing this for 3 years now, off and on. And this company, they caught my eye a long time ago, and I've definitely been keeping my eye on them. They have some tremendous wrestling action. I love their production. I love everything that they do. And I'm not just saying this because they are in front of me. I am telling the truth, because if I love wrestling, you know I'm going to tell you the truth. If I think it's crap wrestling, I'm going to tell you that. But with that being said, this is Mid-States Wrestling and my new friend, Space Cowboy. How are you doing this evening, sir?
What's up, Professor? Man, it's a great honor to be on here with you tonight. I'm looking forward to it. We're going to have a good time.
Oh, yes, definitely. But before we dive into it, I have to let the men and women know that above Space Cowboy is their wrestling logo. Now, the reason I do this because in the world of wrestling, there's not too many different names out there, and you can have so many similar names because as big as wrestling is, it's actually a small little world. And sometimes they have similar names or they actually have the same name. So when you look for their promotion, I want you to know, you see that logo, you know you're at the right place. And if you're like Bear, if someone can give it to you easier, you're going to take that. So that's why I put up that QR code, and that will take you to their YouTube page so you can see some of their great wrestling action. So,
Got it.
with that being said, I'm going to start with the question I start with everybody who comes on my show. How did you become a wrestling fan?
Well, my dad used to watch it Saturday nights, 5:05, be 5:05 our time, 6:05 for a lot of people, but WTBS, NWA, and he would watch it on Saturdays. So I wanted to spend time with my dad. So and he would get there, he would take off work, get home at 5:05, watch that 2 hour block, and then we would go do the family stuff. So I always wanted it to be over with when I was a kid. I'd be waiting on my dad, and then my mom was like, "Hey, why don't you go in there and jump up in his lap and watch this with him and spend a little time with him." And I liked the action. I liked the wrestling, but I saw through it and I was like, man, they're telling stories. And I was young enough to realize what they were doing, and I was probably 6, 7 years old. And then my dad took me to one of my first live events, and it was always kind of a father-son bonding thing that we had. My dad wasn't a big sports guy. He didn't watch a lot of football or baseball or basketball, anything like that, but he did love his wrestling and he wanted to watch it every Saturday night. So that became kind of our father-son bonding time. So I'd say that's how you'd say I got hooked on wrestling.
We have a lot of similarities. My father, yep, that 605 block, that we knew where dad was going to be.
That's
And
right.
if and the neighbors knew so well too that they knew to come way before or way after. Do not come during that block. You did not want that. And my dad would take me and my brothers and sisters to wrestling, and it was just our thing up until he passed away. Even I can even remember the week he before he passed away, he was asking me about a wrestling match. So it just like you said, it was just the way me and my father bonded too.
Sure. Yep.
So with you being a wrestling fan, how did you go from being a wrestling fan to getting into the wrestling business?
I knew that in, say, high school, I wanted to do something. And you got to think back. I'm an old guy, so being a kid like in the 90s, I thought I wanted to work in the radio industry. And so I was kind of looking to do that. And I did an internship, and there was a local promotion that came by. And we didn't get a lot of wrestling in the corner of Arkansas I was at. Most of it came to the bigger networks like Springfield, Missouri, Little Rock, Arkansas. We went to Memphis, things like that. So it got my attention. And when I was kind of doing the internship for the radio, on down the road when I was still in high school, they were like, "Hey, do you want to announce one of the events?" And I was like, "Yeah, I do." So I'd helped them do a little bit of everything. I just wanted to kind of get my foot in the door and see what it was about. And I really enjoyed it. I started off helping them run entrance music for the guys back in the day when they had a tape player and we had to hold a microphone to the boom box to play it for the guys. There was no MP3s, there was no CD players. And then you get done with their music, and whatever part of Bad to the Bone that, they had it queued up to, you would try to rewind the tape and give it back to the guy. That way you had it ready for the next town the next night.
Right.
And guys treated me really well and respect, and I just really liked it. And I always loved sports like basketball and football, and I found a way that you could entertain folks and still be, most people sport stops at high school, and I wanted something to do with it later on down the road. And pro wrestling just clicked. It just clicked. And then when I started doing the ring announcing, the promoter kind of came to me and he's like, "Hey, I can tell you that you might want to do more in it." And yes, sir. So he let me I was fortunate enough. I didn't have to pay a big, but you hear stories of guys having to come up with $3,000, $4,000, $5,000 to be trained by somebody. And I was luckily enough that the promoter found worth in me other places to be like, "Hey, get them in there and, kind of smarten them up as it goes." So I get there early to help set the ring up. and everything. And, when they did events, even 4 or 5 hours away, being still in high school, and he'd get in there and have the guys, work me over a little bit, but not too much because I had to ring announce the event that night. So,
Right.
yeah, man, I was hooked, man. It's there's nothing like getting, taking a beating and getting up and just begging for more of it. And I enjoy it, man. I enjoyed it.
So, from there, where did you go to?
I live in Arkansas, so the promoter that I kind of broke in with, he ran smaller shows in Arkansas, Kansas, Oklahoma, and even Missouri. So I'm right here in that corner. I'm just like a lot of people, when I tell them where I'm from, I'm just like Branson, Missouri. Everybody knows where Branson, Missouri is. It's right there in the corner of Missouri, Arkansas, Kansas, Oklahoma. I live 25 minutes from Branson, Missouri. So that's kind of where I broke into. So after that, I would go anywhere I could get my foot in the door, even to get more training. And it would be like, I had some friends in Oklahoma that had a ring and they were in the wrestling business. So if I wasn't, working a show that weekend, I would drive over there to work out with them, and we would just work out like all day on a Saturday, Sunday, and then come back home and then go back to school or go to work or whatever I had to do. So I'm just thankful enough that at the time wrestling was becoming big. I say big again, you talk about wrestling and I always talk about the old timers. I would hear them say it's secular. It goes in bells and curves. It does have its swells and it has its lulls. And
Yeah.
I've watched that. Like when I started off was the beginning of the Attitude Era, say like 96,
Yep.
95, or 90, when it started getting really hot and you had like Austin coming into the mix and The Rock. I mean, the promoters at that point, they'd throw one ad in the newspaper, throw a couple posters up and said wrestling at the Armory. Boom, they'd sell out like nothing. So we went from starting off, I was really spoiled to be like a part of a lot of sellouts and bigger crowds. Even like when you draw on the independent level without having TV or anything, and you're drawing a sellout of a National Guard Armory of 500-600 people, you've done something big.
Yeah.
That's, and for like, that's pretty cool. So to see that, and then to go back sometimes with certain promoters, you come back 2 years later and it looked like a bomb went off in the place. There'd be like 15 people in the crowd. But I've watched that go up. I've watched it go down. I've watched it like, I say this to all the people, because I enjoy booking, and that's where my love of starting my own promotion started. Was I had been other places. So what I was always doing is I kept notebooks, like spiral notebooks, legal pad notebooks, and I would make notes. If I was ring announcing that night or wrestling, whatever the case I was doing, managing somebody, I would make notes. Like, if it was, say you came out there and you were wrestling, man, I liked his color. He did this, he did that. His flair was amazing. He was a really good worker. He's a great baby face. I would make these notes, and I always watched the way that different promoters did advertising. They did promotions. They did interactions with their fans. And I would make these notes, and I'd call them, and just like keeping a composition notebook of like, if I ever run a promotion, I'm going to do this. I'm going to do this. This works here, but this may not work there,
Right.
So it was finding the right, it's kind of like having the perfect meal. If you're having a barbecue, you can have the best ribs in the world, but if you don't have potato salad and baked beans and everything else to go with it, that ain't a barbecue.
Exactly.
So I would always kind of keep these notes of what can we do to make the perfect barbecue? And that's what I thought I gathered. That was where I really enjoyed the time of where I was cutting my teeth, was seeing how everything comes together, seeing how different promoters do it, seeing how different talent works, and just learning the business, man. So I took a good 6 years of my, just starting off to kind of learn and watch and just soak up as much as I can like a sponge. And then when it was time to start, promoting and then starting mid-states down the road, we've been in business for 24 years now. And it's a labor of love. I guess is what you would say.
So it's funny you say it like that because I had Bull Buchanan on
Mm-hmm.
last week, and I asked him, I was like, so if I'm asking for advice of starting my own promotion, what would you tell me? He said, don't do it.
Absolutely, he's right.
He's like, or he said, don't do it, and you must have a lot of money you just want to throw away.
That's it. You ever see National Lampoon's Vegas Vacation
Yes.
with Chevy Chase, and he goes to the table there at the Mirage, and it's the guy that's inconceivable, that guy
Right.
he's the dealer, and he just like keeps taking his money, and he can't win against this guy. The guy's the cooler, right? He just keeps taking his, and finally he comes down there and he hits the ATM, and Chevy Chase sit down and he goes, "Hey, how about this? How about you give me $500? We'll go back. I'll kick you in the nuts and we'll call it a day." That's what it should be like being a promoter, man. Like, we can save a lot of time and effort. Just give me your money, and it's gonna, like, it save everybody a lot of time and trouble. But yeah, but if that's he nailed it, man. It's a thankless job. You're the guy to blame if the show isn't good, the match isn't good, there's too much salt on the popcorn, there's not enough salt on the popcorn, ticket prices are too much, ticket prices, this or that. I mean, you're the catch-all, you're the end-all, be-all. You're never going to make everybody happy. Everybody thinks that they can do it better than you can, but they have no idea. So I say I relish, but I really enjoy it when you do have somebody like that comes along and they're going to create a better wheel, a better mousetrap, they say, and they're going to do it bigger, better than you can do or whatever. And then you see them flop on their face after one or two shows, or even if they can hang in there for a year. If an indie promotion makes it past 2 years of running consistently, a couple times a month, they might have a chance.
Right.
But, everybody jokes about tax time promoters and I'm going to run a show. I have people call me all the time like, "I want to book you on a show." And like, "When is it?" Like, March of next year. And like, yeah, I will have forgotten this conversation by then. So I don't even take those. I'm like, "Hey, if you're still going to do it around January, you give me a call."
Right.
Because so many woulda, coulda, shouldas. We're going to be bigger. We're going to, yeah. Yeah, you see a lot of people try it and a lot of people fail. And even if you're successful and you are making money, people don't see how many tens of thousands you've sunk in that over the years of just, when the show doesn't do good, it's your rent money on the line being the promoter.
Yep.
I've never ran a show where I have not already had the money that I was going to pay the guys. I've never depended on to rob Peter to pay Paul. Now there's been times I say it like, when the house is light, sure, you may get paid out of the popcorn money, but all of that comes out in the wash, and it's just people don't understand. They think like, "Oh, I'm going to do a show and everybody, every guy on the card's going to get $100 bill." I'm like, "See ya." You ain't gonna last too long. Or they're going to do this. Their production's going to be better. Their television's going to be better. They can book it better. Yeah, but they don't figure into things that you've known for years, and it's dealing with egos, it's dealing with scheduling, it's dealing with venues. There's times like, we came into an area and everybody's like, "Well, you need to run this venue." And I'm like, "Yeah." And they'd say, "Well, so-and-so used to run that venue." I'm like, "Are they still in business?" There you go. So there's a lot of factors that I think some wrestlers, some other people in the business, and then some fans just don't understand. So we try to just put our best foot forward, our best product, and be like, "Hey, this is the way that we run it." Sure, there might be things that we could do better, or you think that we could do better, but everybody's an armchair quarterback when it comes to professional wrestling. So that's what I've learned. There's a lot of cooks that want to be in the kitchen, but at the end of the night, when the rent money has to be paid and this and that, you're inevitably the guy holding the bag with everything. So that end-all responsibility comes down to you and you only. So, and a lot of people aren't ready to take that. They're ready to just be like, and I've worked for other guys too, and they blame everything else of why it went wrong. I'm like, you can't do that as a promoter.
Right.
If you ran a show, I've wrestled so many shows, and they'd be like, well, man, we'd have done okay, but the monster trucks were down the road, or the demolition derby was going on, or the fair and rodeo was over the next county. I'm like, that's your job as a promoter to look ahead to find out those things.
Yeah, exactly.
And, and there's things that are out of your control. We actually shared a parking lot one night with monster trucks because they threw it together in like 2 weeks. And our thing had been on the calendar for, a year, but it was a one-off for them doing a monster truck thing. So I ended up having to share my parking lot. And of course, monster trucks draw thousands of people. In pro wrestling, we're trying to draw 500 people, so it's a greener pastures. When people look at it, they always see a greener pasture of I could do it better. Or it's better over here, better over there. But I tell people exactly what Bull told you. If you think you want to be a promoter, spend some more time, make sure that's exactly what you want, and then crunch the numbers, and then try to sell some sponsors, and then see where you go from there, and then start booking, your WrestleMania or whatever you think you're gonna do.
Right. And see, and for me, as a lifelong fan, I've watched a lot of different things, and I'm by no means am I saying I know the ins and out of all of wrestling business. I'm
Sure.
not,
Yeah.
but what I do know and see, I definitely take appreciation in. Just like when I decided to do this, I was like, as a typical wrestling fan, they do not understand what a promoter goes through to get these shows set up. They don't understand how they are getting wrestlers to wrestle for them.
Yeah.
They're not understanding what they have to put out to draw even a halfway decent house, not to even mention a sellout. So I think this is something that I definitely wanted fans to understand, that side of the business, to have more appreciation for
Sure.
companies that's in your area.
Yeah, and also too, it's different when people start dealing with state athletic commissions too.
Yes.
And there's a reason that certain states don't have that. And so they start off promoting, and all they got to worry about is, making sure they got a ring in a building. Like when you're dealing with a state like Missouri is one of the strictest states as far as the guys doing blood work, and keeping the blood work active. But on the promoter, the bond is more expensive for a promoter to obtain every year. $150 permit. I'll just, kind of share $150 permit, no less than 30 days before an event. So there's no just like, I'm going to have an event in 2 weeks for a fundraiser. No, it's 30 days out in advance, $150. They're going to take 5% of your gate that off ticket sales. That's what they're going to collect. Then they're going to take $1 for every ticket sold on top of the 5%. Then they're going to take $1 per ticket comped. So if you have 30 comp tickets you've given the radio station, you still got to pay $1 to the state commission on every one of those free tickets that you gave away. Then you have to have your promoter's license. That's going to set you back $500, and not to mention the building may require $1 million liability insurance policy for the day. And some of those can cost you up to like $1,200 a day. There's things like that people don't understand when you start dealing with the state athletic commission. Missouri is going to require you to have metal guardrails all the way around the ring. And a lot of places can't have that. There's certain states that require you. In Arkansas, like that was one of the states that I helped get deregulated with my lawsuit that I did against the state. But they're requiring us to provide EMTs at every event, and that was costing like $400 to $600 a show. We had to have the padding all the way around the ring, and not just from the ring, from the entrance curtain down the walkway. So I had to drop like $2,200 worth of padding just to have the event. And all that padding is good for is really a turned ankle or rolled ankle from the guys, because it slides constantly. And
Right.
but they were requiring that. And so these little fundraisers, I would go into these little towns and do these little fundraisers for schools and things. And if their town didn't have an ambulance service, like a little town of 1,000 people, they didn't have an ambulance service. So guess what? You can't have an event there. Sorry, guys, I can't do a fundraiser for you. And you can't, people don't understand the red tape you have to go through on the government side to do all that stuff. So it's, you know, really look into that stuff before you start wanting to say, hey, I'm going to be a promoter. Look into what it takes to do that stuff on the red tape level and on the government level, because it's a hassle, you know. And that's not a I'll pay you later for thing. That's a money up front thing. And the state commissioner is going to show up that night with a badge and sit down and count every ticket. They're going to make sure everybody in that locker room is licensed, that has their doctor's physical and their blood work and all that stuff. And they're going to make sure everything's on the up and up. And if it's not, they're going to fine you $1,000 per offense. And you got to be prepared to write them a check at the end of the night. So there's a lot of responsibility to it.
And again, that is the thing that I've heard so many promoters get just lambasted, talked about, and everything, but we as fans do not know the inside and everything y'all go through. So for me, this is a way of giving back to every promoter that put their time, effort, and energy into making sure a show for us to enjoy is there. And
I appreciate you, man.
And that's the thing, is so much, again, me being the giant wrestling maniac that I am, I just, there's so much out there, and there's so many promotions that have really good shows that never get heard of, or don't, that the people think, oh, well, it's an indie show, so it's just crap.
No, I agree with you. Yeah, man, there's a lot of good products out there. I mean, like, I saw somebody post, not to interrupt you, but I saw somebody post last week. I think Raw was in Memphis. Raw was in Memphis last week, and it was one of the indie guys there, and he posted, this ticket cost $100. The average ticket price was $160 plus parking. That could have got you, I think he said it was like 8 or 9 VIP front row tickets for the next 9 shows, or, you know, a VIP tickets for the next 9 shows. You know, they did whatever they filmed, 4 matches, and a promo was on the extent of that whole card. And he's like, every show we do 6 to 7 matches plus. Your kids could have got pictures with all the guys, you know, for free. You know, we signed autographs. You're not going to get any of that at the big show. And I'm not knocking the big show. I mean, I wish I had that clout to throw that around, but like people the term poo on indie wrestling all the time. Those guys had to start somewhere. And it's just simply them not giving it a chance. So if you can get somebody to sit down, like we have so many people, even in our community, we've been doing this 24 something years. So we'll do these fundraisers. So it draws people that necessarily would never come to a wrestling event, you know, because they're not wrestling fans, or they watched it when they were a kid, but it jumped the shark, you know, after the Attitude Era, and they stopped watching or whatever.
Right.
And so then they come to one of the events and they see how the kids are reacting to it and stuff like that. And they're like, this is really good. And this has been here for 20 something years. And we're like, yeah. So, and I'm like, I know you can't make all the 10 shows that we run a year here, but like pop by, you know, stop back by in every once a year or something like that and check on us. You might be surprised. And then you do have those, you know, they're there as a one-off because so-and-so had extra tickets and they gave them to their friends, and it was a one-off. That so-and-so just happened to be in town and saw it advertised, and they went with them as a friend. Or you have those that continue to come back on a regular basis. And that's what we're about, is we're about trying to create, lifetime fans that come back and want to see us on a regular basis. And I know in this day and age too, we've done our best to really keep the ticket prices low and merchandise, concession prices, things like that. You know, when everything keeps going up, we've tried to say, okay, we're going to make less money, but we want to keep this here so more people can come watch us. I want the guys that wrestled for me on the card going, you know, hey, Jason's going to do his part to put those few hundred people in there so I can sell a few more t-shirts tonight. I can sell a few more 8x10s. And I've been to shows where it's like, it's not even worth setting your merchandise up, you know, where it's just like, oh, wow, 15 people here. What am I going to sell? One t-shirt, one picture.
Right.
But I want there to be a few hundred people there. I want the fans to buy your merchandise. I want you to want to come back to Mid-States Wrestling, you know. So that's why we try to keep it affordable on our end, like with the ticket prices. We want people through the door. And if it was about making money, we would price ourselves out of, you know, do some, you know, $100 front row tickets to just a few people. And then no one wants to wrestle in front of 5. You want to wrestle in front of 500, right?
Exactly.
There you go.
And that's what I love as much as I get. And it seems like for me that I'm always criticizing WWE about things, but especially since TKO has taken over, it's clear they're all about money. It's not about the wrestling, it's about the money. Damn the entertainment. Yeah. So again, and I understand that as a business, but I laugh about it and I actually enjoy it because for me, it's like, man, this is the time. If you're an independent promotion, you should eat this up. This is a great time for you to take over where they are letting the market go south.
Yes, sir.
Because again, like you said, ticket prices are affordable. Man, when you can bring your whole family and still have money to buy food, merchandise, and you still right around that $100 mark, and man, you can't do that at hell. You can't even barely pay for parking for $100 at WWE. And again, I'm not knocking them, but these are times that the indies definitely need to take advantage of. And what I like to call it a couple of things. To me, I love indie wrestling because it's like going to a family reunion.
Sure. Yeah.
You see people that you see all the time, or if they're there all the time and they hadn't came in the last 2-3 shows, then they show up again. You're like, hey man, how you doing? It's kind of concerned about you. Everything okay with your family?
Yeah,
because you wasn't there.
Yeah, and it's a family atmosphere. Yeah, man, I get it.
And that's what I love. And then what I love to do when I go to an indie show, and it was out of a fluke. I went to a buddy's wrestling show, and I had about 2.5 hour drive, 3 hours, something like that. And I got there, and I was tired. I was really tired. So I'm sitting there, and it couldn't have been more than 50 people in the place.
Right.
And I'm sitting there, and I dozed off. I closed my eyes and just nodded off for a second. But then I heard the crowd reacting, and I'm thinking to myself, man, there can't be 50 people. It sounds like we're in an arena for 20,000. I open my eyes and I'm just looking. Then I close my eyes again just to see if it wasn't me just hallucinating, tired or whatever. And I realized, man, they got these people in the palm of their hands. This is a great show. That type of atmosphere is going on where you cannot tell the sound of the crowd if you close your eyes. So that's my measuring stick now. When I go to any indie show, I wait and I do that test. Like, okay, this is a good show. The crowd is into it. And the familiarity too. After a show, kids get to actually get to talk to the wrestlers. Oh my goodness, you're my hero. I like, and sign autographs. So they'll take a picture. They'll give them a shirt. it's such a great atmosphere, family fun, and even for the ones that don't do the family atmosphere, it's still that level of we all feel a part of the show, and
Right.
we're a team. Like
Absolutely.
I tell people all the time, wrestling is the most team sport you ever deal with. I said,
Absolutely.
because you see two wrestlers in the ring, but you got to think about that referee. If the ref ain't there, none of that matters. If you don't have a commentary team to be able to help tell stories, if this is your first time or you missed the show, they can get you caught up.
Sure.
You have that manager or that valet that's gonna mess with you, get you to not like the person they're with. There's so much. The cameraman, if the cameraman's not in the right place to miss the great shots. So it's so much of a team sport that doesn't get recognized as
Sure. Yeah.
that's
I mean, down to the, I tell people, like, I was brought into, and I try to train all the guys that when we do, we have a wrestling school, and we train all of our guys, like, look, from that person setting up the chairs, from the janitor to the person popping popcorn, to the person selling tickets at the door, to the referee, to the opening match, to the closing match, you treat everybody with respect, because we are all on that same team. And honestly, that extends to the crowd. I never liked when guys would always be like, especially because I broke in a different time where it was still very much, guys coming off the territories, and it was kind of pre-indie wrestling. It was still wrestling, and it's, they just like to, call people marks, call the fans marks. And I never liked that term, because I know what it means, with the Carney slang with Mark and marking the rube or whatever the case of it is. But like, it's a feeding frenzy, and it is a cooperation when you're firing on all cylinders in the ring and you're having a good time. That resonates with the fans. And then it becomes a feeding frenzy, and you guys are complimenting each other throughout the night, whether you're the heel, whether you're the babyface, whether you're the ring announcer, keeping them engaged in between the matches. If I'm booked, I still do a lot of announcing stuff. And, I'm at the end of my career, 30 years, I'm at the end of my in-ring career. And I want to do more broadcasts like I've done. I want to do more hosting. I want to do more ring announcing. I feel like I'm a better ring announcer than a lot of, than I have been a wrestler the last 10 years of my career, being at the end of it. And I enjoy engaging with the fans. I like making small talk. I like keeping them engaged throughout the show. You're the ringmaster in that. So, I write a ring announcer really hard, because I want him to do the things that I was taught to do. I mean, hey, if Gary Graham's over selling T-shirt at his merchandise table, and it's an hour before the shows are starting, people starting running, hey, folks, Gary Graham's over there signing autographs and taking photos. Be sure to stop by and check out what he's got over there.
right.
I'm all about engaging the fans and like, hey, let's advertise that the ice cold Coca-Cola in the concession stand, because the Boys and Girls Club are keeping the concessions tonight. I want everybody to feel a part of it, and I want to help everybody out. And that's why we like to do a lot of fundraisers. I was taught at a young age, if the Lord gives you any kind of ability, any kind of talent at all, if you don't use that for some good, he can take that talent from you just like that. And I believe that is true, whether you're a religious person or not. And I think that comes back to community. And when we promote different events, like, we promote in multiple states. So we look at every town that we do come to as that's part of our home base, whether we're in Missouri, whether we're in Arkansas. And I know our home base, where our school and where we started, was Harrison, Arkansas. But like, we want to give back to these local communities and these local fundraisers and charities here. And we want to help them out. I mean, if you don't get back to your community, you're not leaving it. What do you say when you go camping? You want to leave your campsite better than you found it, right? I
Yeah.
think that's the same with a community too. And if you're trying to be a lucrative business and you're not just trying to roll into a town, make a quick carny buck and get the heck out of town like most promoters used to try to do 30, 40 years ago, that was the gimmick, right?
Right.
And they would brag about I worked Pizza Hut out of $1,000 sponsorship on the main event. And like, well, if you'd have done it right, they could have been happy with that $1,000 and you could have came back 6 months later and got them again for another $1,000.
Exactly.
And so I always looked at it as, my family, they self-employed people, so they had businesses. And I always tried to look at the approach of running it like a business and not just, a wrestling fed or federation. You have to be engaged in your local community. You have to be engaged with treating your fans just like customers. The customer, you want to keep them happy. But if you keep them happy and you treat them right and you treat them with respect, you may have made a fan for 20 plus years. We have people that went to our events 24 years ago, 23, 24 years ago, and they came as teenagers. Now they're bringing their kids to the shows and they're showing us photos on their phone. Look at this picture I found. I was at my mom's. I was going through this. That's me and you when I was in the 8th grade. And I'm like, oh, you just made me feel really old, man. But like, when you take a picture with my kid, that way we got in it. I love that stuff, man, because you're going back to how you and I started loving wrestling, bonding with our fathers, bonding with our family. And that's the part that, there's been a lot of shows where I've not made money or I've, like, oh, that was terrible. But then I see these kids jumping up and down and having a great time and leaving with their family, or you run into their family the next week. Like my kid had a sleepover and they came out to y'all's wrestling show last weekend. Man, my kid was hoarse the next day. He couldn't even talk because he was yelling and screaming so much. So I love that. I love those compliments like that. I love that.
Definitely. And for me, especially because again, I'm very respectful. I'm respectful for anyone that's in the business. So people like, well, you're in the business. No, I hadn't earned that right. I always say I'm right on the edge, and I'm cool being on the edge because, again, I don't have to put my body on the line. If I don't want to do it, I just don't have to do it. Everybody else who's doing it, they're doing it for money, for survival, for fun, for whatever they're doing. I don't want to be disrespectful to them.
Sure.
And so I've been blessed to meet so many different wrestlers and stuff, and not a one person that ever can tell you they met me can tell you I've been disrespectful to them.
Right.
Because
that's great, man.
Because that's not my thing. Now, if you're disrespectful to me, then I give you the same energy. But I try not to, because again, like you said, this has been my life. I love wrestling. I know what wrestling has given me. When I was down and depressed and just didn't want to do something and just sick and tired. When I looked at wrestling, man, I got to forget about that. Then when I had to think about it again, it was a little more clarity. I could think right. And
sure.
And one, I'll tell you a quick story. I was at a promotion, and they had just crowned their tag team champions. And I walked over to one of them. We talked. We're going to do a podcast. I was going to have them on the podcast that week. I had a free day. So me and him got on. We were talking, and I was telling him the story about a fan of mine was there. And he asked me when I was going to come out with merch. And I said, it's funny that you asked. I said, I'm working on stuff. I'm working on it. So I said, well, I got some prototypes that I like. I said, but see, I screwed up. I'm a big boy. So the shirts I got wasn't big enough for me to wear. I said, so I think I'm just going to bring one and give away.
There you go.
And the wrestler was like, well, if you give a shirt away, I give a shirt away. I'm like, that's cool. So he was on another podcast of the commentary team 2 days later, and just out the blue, I caught the show. I didn't even know he was going to be on there. I just caught it and I'm listening. So I chime in. I'm like, hey, I'm gonna be at that show too. Hey, I'm gonna give a shirt away. And the rest is like, oh, he mentioned his shirt, he giving away, but I'm giving the shirt away. The commentating team looked at each other like, well, hell, if y'all giving the shirt away, we're gonna give a shirt away. Okay. So I didn't think nothing else about it. So then I'm thinking, and I'm like, man, I remember when I was a kid and we went to wrestling, my parents just had money for getting in and maybe some snacks.
Yeah.
I always wanted stuff. I hated that. And I got to thinking, man, if I throw out one shirt, I'm going to feel bad for the kids that didn't get anything and really wanted something. Just so happened I had a ton of backpacks so I was like, you know what? I would not leave that show without giving every kid a backpack.
That's awesome, man.
So I packed all that stuff and I go to the show. Soon as I walked through the door, the commentary team seen me. I walked over and we talked. He said, boy, you started something. I was like, what? I just walked in. What could I have did wrong? And I'm thinking, oh my God, I offended somebody. You know, I'm really, he's like, the boys heard what you gonna do about giving away shirts. And they said they ain't about to let no outsider come in here and show them up. So they're giving stuff away. And I started laughing then. I said, okay. You go back there and tell every guy, can they match me with giving every kid in the crowd a backpack? Tell them if they can step up. So I'm happy. And I'm thinking to myself, wow, that is real cool that we all came together to give.
That's
stuff.
awesome, man.
Well, intermission, they start giving it out. The announcer is like, well, we're going to throw shirts out and give backpacks. But he said, but this wouldn't have been possible without Professor Bear. Bear, stand up. I was like, man, I don't want no. He's like, I don't care. He's like, don't make me walk over there. Stand up. So I stood up. And it was such an amazing event. And just to see those smiles on kids' face, man. I had so many extra adults were leaving with backpacks.
Wow.
But
that's great,
the whole
man.
thing was not for me to get any credit for that. It was just thinking when I was a kid and if I was in a position to do something and I loved it. And even to this day, I still, when I go, people still come up to me, tell me thank you. And I'm like, you don't have to thank me. Just, hey.
Just enjoy it. Yeah, that's awesome, man.
And that's the little things that I really love. Just the atmosphere I can give back what it means to me. And that's why I love talking to promoters, wrestlers. And that's something else I found out that it means a lot to me. A wrestler, me and him were talking. What happened was he came out with his partner. His partner was wrestling. He was on the outside doing the heat and messing with the crowd. Well, he was doing such a great job as a heel. He started making me mad. He was doing a great job. So then I had a couple of seats empty beside me. He comes, sits down. And I'm sitting there thinking, man, if you get closer, I'm going to end up popping you in the face. you're doing such a great heel work. So he whispered something. I couldn't make out what he said. So after he gets up, going back and messing with everybody. After the show, I'm standing around talking to different wrestlers and stuff. He sees me, he comes over, and he's like, oh man, Professor Barry, I am so glad you stayed, man. I just wanted to tell you how big of a fan I am of your stuff. I said, man, I appreciate that. And I said, I really do. I said, I heard you say something, but I couldn't make it out. And I said, I'm just going to be really honest with you. I said, you had pissed me off so bad that I really thought about hitting you, punching you. And he looked at me, he smiled, he said, man, that's the best compliment I got in a few weeks. that. And then he told me, he said, I really wanted to make sure you stayed, but I just couldn't break kayfabe. So
Yeah.
and I enjoyed that so much that he stayed in character versus, hey, stay after blah blah blah. He did what he was supposed to do, and it
Right.
made it so, because people were looking at him and me interacting that I didn't realize.
Right.
So again, I love that people like my opinion and actually think highly of me to ask me my opinion. So
Sure.
stuff like that, I love going to wrestling. I can sit in the back and be just as happy if I'm sitting on the front row.
Right.
Just to see kids happy, great shows, great events. That's why I love indie wrestling the way I do. Because like you said, before it really became indie wrestling, it was territorial.
Right.
I feel like now it's back to the territorial days, but better, because you can find a promotion in California that you love.
Yeah.
And you can watch it at home. You can follow them. You can follow your favorite wrestler if you go from promotion to promotion. And it's so wide. There was a time, and you definitely know this, there was a time you only got to watch wrestling at one time a week, if you were lucky. Now, pretty much 24 hours a day, if you want to watch wrestling, you can do that.
From the tip of your fingers right there on your phone, you can watch it, man.
Exactly. And
it's great. I mean, like, we're living in crazy times, like, with just the technology, because, like, you and I are old enough to remember when we were analog, man. We had to be home at 5:05 to watch wrestling.
Oh, yeah.
You had to be plugged in. You had to be plugged in when Nitro started, or whatever the case of it was. But now it's the instant right then, right there. And if I want to look up Dusty Rhodes versus Tully Blanchard from 1986, boom.
Bam.
30 seconds later, I'm watching it.
It's funny that you mentioned Tully and Dusty. We talking to someone, and we were talking about our favorite matches. And I told this guy, I said, I'm gonna tell you the match you need to go back. You will learn the art form of how to book a whole feud from the beginning to the end. I said, go watch Tully Blanchard versus Magnum TA.
Oh, it was great, wasn't it?
Yeah. Oh yeah. I said that they didn't give you too much. They baited you in and gave you just enough where you needed more. And then when they got to that crescendo, that match was legendary. And
that I Quit match they had was awesome. And I talked to Magnum about it. We went to we were at it was Flair's last match in Nashville, and we were there at the Starcast thing, and we happened to be, myself and Michael Berry were talking to Magnum TA, and just, we weren't at his table or anything. We were just in the back talking to him, and I was just like, man, I can't tell you how much that resonated with me as a kid. And that was one of the things that I was hooked, was that feud he had with Tully, the feud he had with Nikita. I mean, it was so good, that best of 7 series. And I can go back now and watch that stuff. I try to stay up as best you can't. Oh, sorry about that. We got our washer and dryer going on. And I got a bulldog snoring right beside me too, so I don't know how the audio picks up on that. But I try to keep up with the current stuff. You have to, with having a promotion. You would never want. I remember one time we built, myself and Jack Legacy had built to a strap match, a leather strap match, and we had built to it for like 6 months. And that's, a couple shows a month, getting to it. And we're finally going to do it. And we're watching something, and they were going to have Randy Orton in a strap match with somebody. And our advertising started, and they were like, well, you're just, and then of course, social media, like, well, you're just copying what they did on TV. I'm like, no, we've been going this. I can't ever remember seeing a strap match on the WWE for Savio Vega 25 years ago or something.
Exactly.
And I'm like, yeah, but that goes back to people not keeping up with that. They keep up with the main thing. They think everybody's copying off the main thing. So
Exactly.
I try to do it and it was my fault for not paying attention to what was going on with the current product. And I try to keep my nose to the ground with that as much as I can, but I don't watch a lot of it. I have a couple buddies that have came over since high school, and we do the Royal Rumble every year, and we'll do WrestleMania. Maybe only one night of WrestleMania now, but
right.
a couple buddies we like to gamble on the Royal Rumble where we draw numbers, and win some money. And we thought we came up with a concept back in the early 90s doing that, but turns out everybody was doing it. But
right.
I try to keep up with it, but there's a lot of times I'll go back and just type in something random and I'll catch myself watching more old stuff. And we have so much access to it now.
Oh, yeah.
Where you have the network and you have YouTube and you have these different channels and, people sharing clips and people sharing this and that. And all of a sudden you hit it and you're like, man, I'm going to go back and watch that. And just going back and typing. I typed in recently Wahoo McDaniel and just kind of went down a rabbit hole for like 2 hours watching old Wahoo McDaniel stuff. And I remember being a kid and, learning about his football career and all that stuff and his crossover to wrestling and how he was making more money wrestling then than being an NFL football player. And he was kind of a big draw. I mean, he was a name back in the NFL. But back then he wasn't, making 30 grand a year or something playing pro football, being one of the franchise's biggest players, but he could make more in the offseason wrestling.
Yep.
So that shows you how like sports have shifted. Now football, league starting salary is like, you're like, whoa, good Lord, man. But
yeah,
it's but yeah, you can take a trip, man. You can start going down rabbit holes and watching this and that. And that's what I love. There's when we train our guys, we'll give them matches that we seek out to look. And it's like I can remember buying tapes from back in the days when I broke in, buying videotapes of best of Dynamite Kid in Japan to study it and best of this person. People had made compilations and buying those and making copies to give my buddies, and stuff like that so we could watch them. But now I'm like, you guys should go watch, and I tell my guys, one of my best buddies in the business was beautiful Bobby Eaton. And I learned so much from him in the way that Bobby did communicate. But when I was a kid, he was like the first bad guy that I really enjoyed watching wrestle. And I just love the Midnight Express. I think they're the greatest tag team of all time. And the stuff they did with like the rock and roll, it's just amazing. Right. I don't care which version you put, whether it's Stan or it's Dennis Whittam. I love Dennis to death, but I'll take either of those incarnations of the Midnight Express. But Bobby Eaton was the key point of that. Right. But I'll give them, I'm like, hey, go look this match up. Look at the Midnights versus the Fantastics of the Clash of the Champions. And just seeing some of the stuff that they were doing back then, I'm like, I give them more training tips on just older stuff than I can remember. Like showing guys at the beginning how to cut a ring off, how Sting back in the day would cut a ring off with Muda and things like that and position themselves. But I tell them, like, you have a smartphone, right? You have YouTube. There's no excuse for not watching this 10-minute match. This is your homework. Go watch that match. So I enjoy the technology that's allowed us to do that and not have to go dust off a VHS tape and like, let's watch this match.
Well, as you can see right here, I have tapes. I know you can't see it. I got VCR tapes. I got DVDs. I have stuff that I have in my computer. I'm a big. I'm gonna tell you how far back I have. Pro Wrestling Illustrated from 1988, from 88 to I think I stopped maybe in 2000, sometime in 2000 I stopped buying them. I have every issue when they first started coming with the wrestling 500s. I have the first 5, 6 of them. I'm just a big history buff, but I got a story that you're gonna love about Bobby.
Yeah.
So Me and my friends, we decided to go to an NWA convention in Charlotte. Can't remember what year it was, but
it'd have been like Greg Price probably put that one on back in the day.
Yes,
sir.
So the Rock and Roll Express were the Midnight Express, Tony Atlas, Bret Hart. It was a Dusty Rose. It was who's there.
Sure.
Well, when we were going up to, they had the guy sit on the stage and had tables so you could walk up, get autographs, and talk to everybody.
Right.
The night before, Jim Cornette was here in Knoxville. This was after he sold Smokey, but somebody had a show and he came to it. So, and I happened to run into him when we talked and everything. So we're going down the line. The last three people are Jim, it was Dennis, and Bobby. Come up, talk to Jim, make some jokes. Went to Dennis. Said what I was going to say to Dennis, thanked him, got to Bobby. He said some stuff, and I was like, man, I really appreciate you. I love the high flying stuff. I love to hate you as that. I knew who you were, and I enjoyed it. He was like, well, thank you. I appreciate it. And so I took about 3 steps away from him. I just spun back around real quick, like, holy shit, you just spoke. Jim Cornette spit out coke laughing everywhere. Bobby gave me this death stare. And when I tell you a death stare, that he looked like he was about to jump up from that table and whip me all over that place. Yeah. Then he started laughing. So I felt a little bit better about it. The next
he's a great guy, man.
Wait a minute, I'm not even finished.
Stayed at my house. We've made towns together. We spent, he just a great human being, and like that's one of the biggest losses. We went to Nashville to go to the funeral, and Debbie, his sister, she's great, and his kids like Taryn, and I was so heartbroken because I could go a year without seeing him, and the minute I'd see him, hey Space, what you doing there? Hey buddy, and we were always joking with him, but he would stop, like if we would go in a gas station or something, and he'd buy Cracker Jacks, and like I just thought that was the funniest thing in the world, because I'm like, it's a grown man buying Cracker Jacks. That was a kid thing, when I was a kid.
Right.
Get that toy out. He went in one day, we were coming from Branson, and we were going to Oklahoma, and my kids were staying the night with my dad so we could going to visit their grandparents. So from the ride from there, he stops in, we go to the convenience store. He goes inside and he buys like 4 bags of Cracker Jacks, like all they have. And he opens every one of those bags and makes sure my kids have, I got a boy and a girl, gives them 2 toys each. And he's like, I want to make sure they had toys out of there before I got too far down the road. And I was like, he's just a good dude and just a kind heart. And, he would give you the shirt off his back. And he just so good. He refereed one of our matches, did a special guest referee thing. We did a tag team spot the Midnight Express did. He goes, hey, I like that spot y'all did out there. Man, that's pretty neat. I said, yeah, we stole that from you. And he goes, oh, you did? And he just kind of waits for a second, and I go, where'd you get it from? He goes, hell, I don't know. We probably stole it from somebody else. And I was like, well, that's the classic Bobby line right there. It's like, hell, I don't know. I just did it one day. He'd tell you that sometimes the stuff he would get there, he'd get in the ring to start messing around and trying stuff, and then they'd be doing it, on a WTBS, match, for TV. Yeah. And I'd just get in there and try stuff. And I'm like, man, that's awesome. I wish I had your balls to do that stuff. I'm not a top rope guy, but man, he could do it. That Alabama Jam.
Oh man.
It's beautiful, man.
Yes, beautiful. It is. And so the next day I ran into him. Me and my buddy were looking for a ATM to get some cash, and we were walking around, and all of a sudden I heard, "Hey, I've been looking for you." And so I spun around like, who in the hell? Because I didn't know who was saying it or who they were
Right.
talking to. I spun around looking. All of a sudden, it's him. And that death stare I told you he had it again. And I'm thinking, oh man.
He had your number, didn't he? He was joking with you.
Oh yeah. I was like, man, he's gonna kick my ass. And I'm looking at my buddy, and I'm thinking, man, you better not let me get beat up. You better try to hit him, do something, get him off of me. And he walked up on me and he gave me a big hug. And I told him, man, don't do that. You almost gave me a heart attack.
You give me a heart attack. Yeah, no, he's great, man. He was the best.
Yes, and I finally got to go to the arena they named after him in up in what is it, Kingsport, Tennessee.
Yes, sir.
I got a chance to do that, and I felt such amazing joy to see that arena. And Ricky Morton was there, and Ricky knows me. And
right.
Ricky called me over, and this is the thing that, again, I love about wrestling, and you have genuine friendships with people. Ricky stood there the whole time. We talked for a second. He got guys around. He said, give this man your number. Get his number. You want to do a podcast? You want to get out there? This is the man to do it for you. And
that's awesome.
To hear a legend speak that highly of you, again, it lets me know what I'm doing a good job at it, and I have a great reputation. And even for the people that may not like me or whatever, I'm definitely not hard to find. I'm quick. If I made a mistake, I'm quick to resolve it. And again, it goes back to respect. Wrestling to me is nothing but respect. And I love it. I appreciate everything that it's taught me. It taught me a lot in my life. It helped me understand a lot of things, and to give back, I love it. And I'm going to do everything in my power. Like you just said, leave the business better than I found it. And I promise that I'm going to do that with all my heart and might. And that's why I do what I do.
Well, that speaks volumes for your character. And, I think that the wrestling business, could use more, not character like characters, but like character. And, right. I was growing up that, like, you're square dealing. You're honest. You're not out to screw somebody over. I'll take a loss before I ever want somebody to think I ever screwed them over. And I think that if you do business like that, I mean, there are going to be people that may not understand. There's going to be people with a chip on their shoulder, but for every one of those people that say they may not like you or whatever, you have 1,000 that appreciate what you do. So even if it goes unsaid or unnoticed, and being a promoter, like we've talked about, that's a thankless job a lot of time. Whereas sometimes you're a wrestler and you go out there and you have a match, and even if it's just meh, people are still like, hey, awesome match. They're just glad to be there. They're glad that wrestling came to their town. Yeah. And being a promoter you're never going to make everybody happy. Yeah. If I have 25 guys on one card and, 2 or 3 referees, announcer, commentators, whatever, the person helping pop the popcorn, whatever, maybe somebody feels slighted. Maybe somebody feels, oh man, there was only $50 in my envelope. There should have been at least $70 in it because of the, the house or whatever. Like, they don't see the work that you're going, that you're putting into it. So for every one person that's pissed off, there's a few that are, but you never hear. It's like when you own a business, you never hear from the satisfied customers. You always hear from the one person that's upset.
Yeah.
And so if you can do a show and you only have, promote a show, you have 500-600 people there, and you only got one person that got upset the whole time or one negative thing, cool. Fix that, move on, try to prevent it from happening the next time. And I think that's why we've been able to go so long is, hey, you look at something like, hey, that didn't work production-wise, fix that one thing, move on. Next show, it may be something completely different.
Right.
Maybe it's something you're dealing with the venue. Maybe it's something you're dealing with a particular talent. Fix that, move on. It's never a loss, even if it's a financial loss. It's never a loss if you learn from it and you can fix it before the next show. And we've promoted hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of shows, not to mention when we did promote boxing, we did promote, MMA and things like that. Hundreds and hundreds and thousands of matches that we've had. And when I see some of those people, and it's like, yeah, maybe the boxers that lost for us are pissed, but you have not everybody's going to be happy, but for every one negative person, and like you were saying, that always keep your head up when you're doing something you enjoy. For every one person that's upset with you, you may have made 300 people happy, but you're never going to hear from those people. So You just keep doing what you're doing, man. And if it brings you joy and it brings you happiness, you keep doing it, because I never would have crossed paths with you if you hadn't been doing this. And, and now with us talking, you never know. It might be that one person that sees this, that sees the product, that likes the product, and vice versa. It might be one of our fans that gets turned on to your podcast. And so that's all about working together in the business. I do my best to work with every promoter that comes along, and there's some you do business with, and you're like, okay, maybe I'll work with them, but maybe a distance a little bit myself, but I try to work with every person. I try to work, and we try to build it and make it better. And that's all you can do, man. And you're giving, thank you for the guys that don't ever tell you thank you. Thank you for giving the promotions and the wrestlers and stuff a platform to talk about their passion and their love of pro wrestling. And I've enjoyed listening to your story tonight. I mean, like, I've enjoyed it. I got a new friend that I'm online with that, we're going to connect. Our fans are going to connect with you, and your fans are going to connect with us. And it's just it's a growing thing. When you're having a good time, the fans are having a good time, right? So
exactly.
It's a win-win situation, baby.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Again, I just want to thank you so much for everything you've done for wrestling, what you continue to do for wrestling, what you're going to do in the future. Again, this is more, it's a thing of having more respect for promoters and learning what y'all do for us that we take for granted. So hopefully people will learn, like, hey, you know what? I never thought about it like that. Man, let me ease up a little bit. I see he's right here. Let me tell him thank you because man, I heard and they may not even watch this. They've heard somebody else talk about it. But again, just because people sometimes never get that thank you. And I want to be that person for them to tell you that thank you.
Well, I appreciate that. And thank you for doing what you do, man. There's a lot of good promoters out there. Like, one of my favorite promoters I work for is Herb Simmons. And I think you're familiar with him, but he runs SICW, Southern Illinois Championship Wrestling. And Herb,
I am going to their fan.
You'll be a fan fest?
Yes, I'm going.
Well, I'll be there. I've got my table, and I'll be in the matches that night. So that'll be actually one of my last matches. So I'll get a chance to see you that night.
Cool.
I'll get a chance to see you that night, but you'll also start seeing me on a little bit more of there. You'll see a lot of my talent up there that I've helped train, that they do wrestle. We use a lot of the same talent. And Herb is a great guy. He's one of those guys, like, if I were to leave the business right now, I would still have communication with Herb Simmons because I like him. I like his family. his wife is a sweetheart. His son is they're just good people. And I enjoy going up there to wrestle for Herb. Herb comes down to some of my shows and we'll do commentary, and we do our best to work together and trade out talent when we can trade out talent and help each other. When I've got a fundraiser, him and Bob Orton will jump in the car and come down and do the show. And, we try to do the same for them. And he's just a good all around guy. But I was going to take that minute, and you know about FanFest, and that'd be a good opportunity for some of you guys that want to come out and never get a chance to go to one of the big FanFests. I'm telling you, like, Herb is really rocking it hard with this FanFest thing in the St. Louis area. And I've been on the last 3 since he started it. I've been at every one of them. He had one venue for 2 years and then the new venue last year. And it's absolutely great, man. We had a good time. We hung out with Ricky Morton last time for a good hour and 2 hours, listening to him tell good jokes and just having a good time up walking around. And I had a couple Rock and Roll Express magazines on my merchandise table I'd brought just for some extra gas money and stuff, and giving somebody else an opportunity of magazines I had duplicated in case they wanted to get one and have Ricky and Robert sign it. And Ricky just reaches down, just goes ahead and signs it. He goes, some fan will get a treat out of that one. You know how he talks. I love Ricky Lyon. Man, let me tell you something, brother. I tell you, Bill Dundee is so mean, I don't even think he likes ice cream. That story
that was the best Ricky Morton impression.
I got a pretty good Ricky, but I don't ever want to make him mad. I love him and Kerry. They both came in. Ricky's come in a couple of times to work for Mid-States, and I had him and Kerry on our we did a Legends of Memphis wrestling show in Jonesboro, Arkansas, and I had them on that, and Jimmy Hart helped me put that one together. I travel up and down the road with Jimmy Hart quite a bit. And so he keeps me, man, that guy right there is a wealth of information. So we've done many thousands of miles together, but I love Ricky Morton. If I had a chance and he was closer, he'd be on every one of my cards I ever did, just because he's such a tremendous help to the young guys and just a hoot to have around, man. That Jonesboro show, we had a million things going on because we had done a FanFest earlier that day and flipped it into the show, and it was a sellout, and we were running around looking for something. He's like, what are you looking for, Jason? And I was like, man, I think they forgot to put the ring bell out there. And he just starts digging through boxes, like helping us, like, boys, where's the ring bell at? We got to have the ring bell before we can get going. But yeah, he's man, he'll tell you some of the best jokes, man. And I make him tell you the dippy joke every time I see him, and he's amazing, man. So we'll get to see him again this year, and I'll get a chance to see you and everybody. But now that Herb Simmons show is a big deal coming up, so I hope everybody gets up there and sees Herb and the product he's got. He's got a great product up there, and that FanFest thing takes a lot of work and a lot of money to put on, and so we need to get people out there to turn up for Herb and SICW, man.
Oh, definitely. Ricky, I love Ricky for a lot of different reasons, but the one thing Ricky did for me is we have a mutual friend in common, and he told the mutual friend, he said, I want to do Bear's podcast.
Yeah.
Ricky don't do a lot of podcasts.
No, he doesn't have to.
Exactly. He wanted to do mine and didn't charge me one single dime. Every time I see him, I just want to hug him. If I see Kerry, I mess with Kerry. It like we said earlier, it's just like a big another family that you grow to enjoy and love and just very appreciative of.
Yes, sir, man. You got it. Well, thank you again for having me on, man. I've really had a great time.
I did too, my friend. Again, thank you so much. I was already fired up for the FanFest. Now I got another reason to be looking forward to it. I get to meet you in person when we get to talk.
Awesome, man. I can't wait, dude. We'll get a picture together, and we'll tell some good wrestling stories.
Yes, sir. Guys, girls, thank you so much for joining me around the campfire again for another amazing story. Again, what you think you know about promoters, you just really don't. You don't know what they go through, their sacrifices, their hard work to entertain us and make sure we're having a great time. So, man, you run into a promoter, man, let them know how much you appreciate them and thank them for everything they do for us. With that being said, as I always love to say before I leave my show, please, please, please go support your local indie promotion. I cannot, this would be a message I would never stop doing, because you will have such an amazing time there. I say this all the time. I'm not saying it's better than WWE. I'm not saying it's worse than WWE. But what I am saying is you are getting a feeling that WWE cannot duplicate.
And give them a chance too, more than anything. An independent group a chance.
You just never know. And you get to see up and coming wrestlers that down the road you may see them on the bigger stage. So, man, give support. And again, you can go in with money and come out with money because it's reasonable. It's reasonable. So definitely do that. With that being said, I am Professor Bear. This has been a Bear's Thought, and we will see you again around the campfire very, very soon. Y'all have a great, great evening.